All right, sorry about that, folks. I was not directly connected to the server. That's my fault. But just to briefly highlight these runners, since I need to repeat that. On the left, you have caznode, who is a very fast runner of this game, who's been doing this game for quite a long time. He currently has a PB of 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 27 seconds. That puts him in 18th place in the leaderboard. He got this 9 months ago, so he's been running this game for a pretty long time. In general, has been running for about 4 or 5 years now. His words for it for this category, though, he says he's been running quote-unquote too damn long. You may also find him running Master Sword. On top of that, outside of this game, has a 46-minute time in the old Super Metroid route, which, despite being 3 years old, his run is actually still holding 43rd place. His opponent, TheLostLlama, also a very interesting runner to watch. TheLostLlama has a really great personal best of 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 48 seconds, which puts him at 57th place in the leaderboard, having just submitted this time a month ago for this tournament, which is great for the seeding. You may also find Llama running a lot of Super Monkey Ball, has a world record in the normal category master level set, and a few different Super Mario Bros. Runs, which are all very highly ranked. Definitely recommend checking it out. Our runners right now, though, just to kind of get us back to speed here, are finishing up the ball in Chain Guard. This enemy is kind of dangerous early on in the run, but there's a couple different ways our runners can deal with them. Most runners will choose to do 8 slashes, although you can throw pots and grab hearts if you're a little low on health walking into the fight. Moving on a little bit further, our runners here in Escape don't have a lot of things they can do to really optimize their speed here. The best thing that they can do is avoid running into things or nudging or bumping into them. And they also want to pay close attention to how Link's movement animation works. There is a trick, of course, called pumping. We talk about it all the time. Saves maybe like 10 seconds over the course of the run. So that's not super important. But here early in the game, every little bit counts. Every frame will help our runners get an edge over the other. And with times as fast as theirs, everything is going to count in this run. So just to kind of explain what I'm talking about, Link's walk animation cycles between 2 different speeds. 2 pixels per frame and 1 pixel per frame. If you walk to the right or down, it starts at 1, and if you walk left and up, it starts at 2. So the best possible way to move is to kind of mash the D-pad and reset that walk animation as much as possible. Won't see a whole lot of uses for it, but it really helps when Link has a slow movement speed, particularly in water, which we'll see coming up ahead, and of course on stairs. Now, both of our runners are pretty low on health. You see TheLostLlama picking up that heart underneath that pot there. It's a very fast heart to get. So if you're going to do that, that's a really great time to do it. Caznode, on the other hand, managed to get really good snake RNG and just walked right through that room anyway, so he should be able to finish this up without too much risk to himself. Now, runners, if they're doing pretty well, will end up out of the entire sequence for the escape in about 6 minutes total or so. Right now, they're on great pace to do so. Here's another instance of RNG where this rack goes that has the key is RNG. We know exactly where every enemy is going to spawn for the most part in this game. How they move can sometimes be influenced by us, but for the most part, we're pretty much held at a gunpoint depending on what kind of RNG we'll end up actually seeing. So both of our runners doing pretty well to navigate around those enemies. We're also going to see them skip a text box in this room and pull that switch, and both emerge from the castle escape in under 6 minutes. Very good time. Both of these runners are high-level players, so it's possible that one of them may end up skipping the Sanctuary Heart. However, really something that doesn't save you much time, like 3 seconds, and for the safety of a tournament race, gotta think both of these runners are gonna go pick it up. And just a little bit about these runners and their group. They are part of Group B, which is the Mothula group. Both of these runners are 2-0, so this race is about more than just the pride of the group, of course. It's also about the seeding in the bracket stage, because this will finish up the group. And both of these runners are set to advance. So at this point, they're trying to give themselves the best possible opportunity for an easier matchup when they do get to the elimination bracket. And here's a great example of where pumping does help. We can reset that walk animation on the stairs, which slows down Link. Well, those stairs slow down Link considerably. You'll also see that we're going to try to boomerang this Armos Knight. Caznode tried to. The reason why is because boomeranging enemies and stunning them makes them not move on the screen so that they lag less on the screen. Very interesting thing there. And chat pointing out also that Llama did a no reset run before this, had -30 into Turtle Rock, which is really impressive. That's a lot of time to be ahead. I'm not sure what his Ganon's Tower split looks like, but that's still really impressive. So we are on a PB watch as well. TheLostLlama having put in a relatively recent PB in the last month, so wouldn't be that surprising to see if lightning strikes twice. That Stalfos room is very interesting. So normally there would be 4 Stalfos that would spawn in that room. We prevent 2 of them from spawning by abusing the way that the spawn mechanic works. It's based on where Link is in the room when you cross the trigger. By throwing 2 pots in the right places, we can kill 2 enemies as they spawn and force one of them to spawn under a pot and the last one to spawn outside of the room. Allows us to get through that room very quickly. You'll also notice that Caznode did throw a boomerang to pick up that magic pot. Not a big time save, but it'll save a couple frames during the refill animation after the Armos Knight's fight. And it didn't cost him anything to throw it. And if there's a single room in the game where pumping actually saved you some frames, this is it. Next up, we have a damage boost. We're going to use this to get the pot off of the anti-fairies, and we're going to step on the switch when the invincibility frames end, triggering that switch, allowing us to get the big key without killing every enemy in the room like we would normally be doing. You'll also notice that one of our runners, Caznode, did pick up the safety arrows on the right side of this room. TheLostLlama did not, so TheLostLlama may actually have to potentially pick up a couple extra arrows going into the Armos Knight's fight. However, if we get some favorable drops, we won't have that problem at all. could also pick up a couple pots from this next room to fill up some more arrows. Caznode has to be careful. These anti-fairies will do 1 heart of damage, so will the Igors, so you have to be very mindful of where we're walking here. Next up's the Zelda Gamer Room, named after somebody who was very frustrated with the RNG of that room. Cannonballs spawn completely randomly, so there's no way to tell what you're going to get. You just got to deal with it. Our runners are walking into the room before Armos in sync. And no, that's not a boy band, that's just them being very close together. Get to see a nice, fast kill here with Armos. They're both going to line up just above and to the left of the top right. One pump 5 arrows into it and just let loose on the left side. Excellent fight from both of them. About as good as that could have gone. Alright, well, now that they're done with their synchronized Armos killing, and they've won the gold medal in the Olympics, they have to go pick up their medal from Sarsaparilla, who is the tournament official. Now that they've both tied for the gold medal, actually, I guess Caznode probably gets the gold because he was about half a second faster. Now that they have that gold medal, though, they're going to have to make a tough decision about whether they want to accept the prize money now or take it in installments later by paying out through a tree. Be interesting to see what these runners do with their lotto winnings. Now, it looks like both of our runners are wise, sagely people who know that it's not about getting the immediate gratitude. It's all with the Sahasla rupees. We're going to go and grab some from a tree later. And yes, in Hyrule, money literally does grow on trees. We'll explain that further when we get there, though. Next up for our runners, they have made it through a lot of this game, but they still don't know how to read, so we need to actually go and grab a book. You'll notice a couple of things that our runners will do in the overworld. They'll try to line themselves up with certain ledges and certain edges in general to make sure that they don't bonk and to make sure that they have nice lineups. We'll get our second example of a spin speed. This is a great exploit of the movement system that Link has. When Link does a dash right after a sword spin, 1 frame after actually, the game gets kind of confused and says, well, wait a second, are you dashing or are you walking? And so what it does is it gives, when you touch a manual staircase, which changes Link's movement speed, the game then applies running speed to your walking animation. We call it super speed, you can call it spin speed, there's a lot of different ways to get the same effect. We'll use it wherever we can find a manual staircase and enough room to make it worth it. But our runners have decided to go for round 2 of synchronized linking. We get to see the smallest differences in their execution here. You'll notice both of these runners are picking a very tactical route through these bushes and through the grass. The least amount that you go through that stuff, the better. And you also see them line up for the next dash very well. We might see a pause buffer out of... Nope, no pause buffer out of Caznode, but both of them know exactly where they're going. And just like that, synchronized praying. I wasn't kidding, folks. This is a hype race. Light World, not the most exciting part of it. There's a lot of dashing, but it'll get even more crazy as we start seeing the more difficult dungeons. Get a nice dash, or poke dash, out of both of our runners through that one, I don't even know what you call that monster. We're also going to bonk into the wall instead of the torch itself. See, all we got to do is nudge into the torch itself, and the dash against the wall will actually count for some reason. Game's weird, man. I don't have an explanation. Next up is another opportunity to have good or bad luck. We want to kill these popos really quickly. If we dash right away, we'll get through both of them, but the cannonball's ahead. This is the second instance of that RNG. If we're really good, we get a dash through there. LostLlama had a little bit bad luck. He's going to have to walk to the sand, then dash, to make sure that he doesn't get hit on the way back through. And with that, our runner's going to go head over to the second half as soon as they grab their power glove, you'll notice that they'll both pick up these arrows here. There's a couple more backup pots that they can pick up in the circle of pots room that they're coming up to. Got one there and one right above it. We want to have as many arrows as possible for the Lamb-Mollis fight. As you remember before, the Lost Llama did not pick up the 5 extra safety arrows in Eastern Palace. So whether or not we have to pick that up later, who knows? As for the Lamb-Mollis fight that we're about to walk up to in just a moment, because they'll be there quick. The Lamb-Mollis fight requires 12 arrows if you're going to use arrow strats and you're going to hit every single one of them, which nobody ever does. But caznode gets the really difficult desert spin speed. It's kind of a risky strat because when you're in spin speed, you actually hop off of ledges immediately upon touching them, which is actually a way to save some time in some instances, but in this case would lose you like a minute or so. So happy to see he didn't fall off. He used the pause buffer to make sure that he didn't. You know, Dark Dawn in chat asking about boss RNG. It's interesting that you mentioned that because, you know, even if you were playing randomizer, those bosses wouldn't have the same RNG with the exception of like Aghanim. But as far as Lamb-Mollis goes, we're going to see some interesting RNG. The first phase, all 3 of the worms will spawn in the same position, but in every phase, the flight pattern and distance that they fly is completely random. So this is all about how well our runners can react to the ridiculousness that is the Zelda 3 RNG. Ideally, we get at least 2 arrows into each one, but honestly, as many as you can get is good. We want to do this in 3 or 4 phases max. Getting a Lamb-Mollis worm in the second phase isn't bad at all. Llama getting about the same luck. And with that, caznode will pull a little bit further ahead by about 1 cycle. And a small part of me has a soul-crushing moment where I realize they're like 3 minutes ahead of me. But they are on an absolute tear. This has been a really good light world so far. And our runners are next going to head up to Tower of Hera to take on a moldy worm. caznode attempting the Sandman dash, see if we can get it out of Lost Llama. Nope, but we did do it with a slash. That was pretty quick as well. The next thing our runners are going to do is they need to head up to the mountain. You might be wondering, why would you dash east? You know, where are you going? Well, as it turns out, there's a permitted minor glitch in this category called fake flippers. What our runners are going to do is they're going to use a whirlpool to head up to the mountain about 6 to 8 seconds faster. By slashing this bush and moving up in a diagonal movement, we can line up so that we are 1 pixel away from the screen transition. We have 1 frame where we can enter in a direction, and that allows us to make the screen transition even without the flippers. When you do that, the game gets very confused. It's like, wait a second, you're not supposed to, you don't have flippers. And then it's like, well, you did screen transition, so I guess you do. All right, I guess you have flippers. That being said, though, if you get hit, the game doesn't know where to put Link on the screen, and then he soft locks. So kind of a dangerous trick, but both of our runners pulled it off flawlessly. The old man here has a mirror for us. Didn't have much use for it in here. Didn't have any light to see himself with. So he couldn't find his way out through it. But, you know, we're going to take advantage of that, even in the Palace of Darkness. Particularly in the Palace of Darkness. Besides that, though, this is a very dangerous part of the world. These flying cabbages and squirrels really have it out for Link. I don't know what he did to him in another life, but they really want him dead. So we're going to use a spin speed to try to get past him a little bit faster. Later on, when we have the hook shot, we'll have an opportunity to actually do a sword climb, which would make this a little bit faster. Another thing to touch on is there is something called a quick warp. If you walk into a portal or use the mirror in the right position on the screen, you have to position the camera correctly, the game will actually take less frames to do the warp animation. And it looks like Lost Llama got both of them, actually, which is really nice. The Death Mountain portal has to be entered from the right side when you bring the old man up the mountain. And Spectacle Rock, you actually just have to be on the right pixel. When we come back up here later to get the Ether Medallion, fluting up here will actually change where the camera is, and we'll have a different position, just slightly left off center of the portal. Well, we had another opportunity for a swag strat here. Caznode opting to just simply stand by the door. Perfectly valid, but looks like the Lost Llama is going to pull off a boom dash in exactly one try. What a madman. So what Llama did there is an item dash. If you hit the dash button and the item button on the same frame, Link will actually use the item and dash at the same time. Go figure. It's a 1.0 exclusive glitch. Now, if you want to throw the boomerang in a different direction, that's actually 3 frame-perfect inputs, and doing it in a dash is actually kind of hard, so really impressed to see him pull that off. That will give no real time advantage to Lost Llama, but definitely nice to pull off. You get a little bit of a, coffee break. Beyond that, we got some hard hat beetles to kill here, a couple rooms to traverse. The next nice and exciting thing we're going to see is a bomb jump in a room we like to call the petting zoo. And you're about to find out why very shortly. Now, the bomb jump we're going to pull off in the next room, Cazno's walking into it, is going to allow us to pick up the Moon Pearl without having to go up a floor and dropping down and hitting a switch. It's not too hard to line up. What Cazno's going to do here is he's going to place a bomb in a more forgiving position and just dash bonk against the wall. This makes it very safe to get across the gap. You have a 6-pixel window that you can actually stand and still get the jump. Now, if you're not going to do a dash bonk, let's just say you're playing randomizer, you don't have the boots, you have to actually be within 2 pixels of the ledge in order to get the bomb jump to work. So it's much more punishing to fail and a lot more difficult to line up. You can do a spin slash, though, to set up your lineup correctly. Cazno taking a small fall trying to do bumper skip, so Lost Llama will be the first one into Moldorm. Both of the runners did a really nice bomb jump. You see Lost Llama taking advantage of a really nice technique here in the Moldorm fight. Ooh, but the slash actually knocked him off, so the lead changes yet again. Cazno getting denied twice entry to the arena. Moldorm's like, I don't want to even deal with you today. But so, what the Lost Llama was doing before is whenever you're holding the sword outstretched in the opposite direction of the ledge, Link will actually just continue bouncing off the side and won't actually fall off. So you can hold that out and kind of, brace yourself against the edge and, through a war of attrition, kill Moldorm. Cazno had a pretty good fight and got within 1 heart, but managed to pull it off. Ooh, getting really close to that sword spin. So on this last hit, after you've done 5 hits to Moldorm, he'll actually go into an enraged phase and he becomes even more dangerous. Now, if you fall off, you have to restart the entire fight, which is frustrating. Even with those falls, though, both of our runners on a really great pace, having a great light world so far. Caznode is going to pull the tree for the first time. Tree pulls are an interesting mechanic here in Zelda 3. The way it works is that the first pull that you do, if you've killed 1 enemy and you pull the tree, you're going to get green rupees. If you kill 4 enemies and take damage, you're going to get blue rupees. And if you kill 4 enemies without taking any damage, you get red rupees. So we pull this one first to pick up a couple of extra. If you didn't get a lot of good rupee drops, you're going to probably grab them all. But after we've done that, we're going to kill 3 enemies on our way to the Master Sword, and we'll use sword beams after picking it up to kill the last one. So that's 2 there, or 3 there on Lost Llama's screen. We killed that 1 pickle. And then you'll see on Caznode's screen walking back through, right before he pulls it, he'll get 1 more. This route saves, I believe, if done optimally, about 6 seconds over Sahazla rubies, and you don't pick up extra bombs, but we route our bombs pretty intelligently in this run, so we don't really need to pick up extras. You could potentially use one for the coffee break in Tower of Hera, and, you know, save yourself from having to, like, go out of your way to pick up a couple extras if you mess up a bomb jump here or there. Well, that's the 4th kill for caznode, getting kind of close to that guard. He's going to not pick up the mushrooms, so we're going safetyless on this run. Now, caznode did an interesting thing there. He only has 107 rupees. There's a couple ways he can get those 3 remaining. He can rely on good drops. There's a 5 rupee drop as well underneath a pot in the Hyrule Castle on the way to Aghanim, and TheLostLlama is also going to skip the mushroom. So deaths are going to be really costly in this run. Meanwhile, TheLostLlama does have all of the rupees he needs. He's not going to have to worry at all about rupee management. Now, these gold guards that you just saw caznode kill, there's a couple of different strategies you can use to kill them. When you have full health walking in, which you probably should, I mean, definitely recommend practicing your approach from Master Sword to Hyrule Castle until you have no damage on your way, because sword beams are very strong. We're going to take advantage of sword beams, arrows, and sword spins to kill both of these guards very quickly. It's a little faster than holding down with your sword against the door on the south and doing a sword spin when their feet touch, which is the Din-Din strats, as we like to say. We also got to see some tactical uses of key dashes. The way a key dash works is if you're going to try to dash through a door that you have to unlock, you have to make it work with Link's movement animation. So when you're dashing, you move 4 pixels per frame, and Link's collision detection, conveniently, is synced to an interval of that, of 4 pixels. So if you start a dash any increment of 4 pixels away from the door, you're always going to dash through it if it's a key door. We're going to take advantage of that in a couple of different ways. Pretty much everything that's on the floor is going to be lined up in a tile grid, which is going to have 4 pixel increments away from the door. All you got to do is nudge against something like a torch to line yourself up correctly every time, even if your initial standing point isn't correctly aligned. Well, we've killed some red guards. We have a Circle of Pots room. We have Aghanim as well. Aghanim is a very interesting fight. This is one of the heavier instances of RNG in the run that affects us in time. So the way this fight works is it's a 5-attack cycle. Aghanim's first attack is always going to be an energy ball. We can reflect this back. It's your good old classic Zelda volleyball. He's going to serve with that one. The next 2 are a 50-50 coin flip between a bump and a spike. He can either give you another shot right back at you, which you can reflect, or blue balls, which you cannot deflect. He pretty much spikes on you. So the worst case scenario is, well, the 5th attack is a lightning attack, which you can't reflect either. So the worst case scenario is you get 1 reflectable attack per cycle, and if you have really lousy luck, your name is Scrivo, and you get 15 of them twice. It's like a 1 in 32,000 chance, because you have to lose like every coin flip. Very rare. caznode here has 2 so far in the first cycle, though. That's pretty rough luck. Very unlikely to have more than, you know, well, kind of hard to say. I mean, 3 potential opportunities per cycle. I can't say 50-50 odds there. But he had a 33% chance there. No blue balls yet in this next cycle. Not that great at math. Sorry, folks. And 1 for TheLostLlama, so we're 2 and 1 so far. 3 and 1. caznode expressing a little bit of frustration. I'm right there with him. If you get more than 3, that's actually pretty bad luck. Though As it goes further and further, it's just more of a time loss. 3 is pretty average, though, so Kaznode's probably okay with it. He does enter the Dark World in less than 30 minutes, so pretty good for a race setting. Llama has 2 so far. Let's see how many we get total. Well, that's 3. Probably not too happy to see that, and you're seeing a little bit of frustration in response. You're also seeing him grab the wall, which during the lightning attack actually reduces lag because the shield is actually not visible on screen, so the game doesn't have to render it. One other note about that fight, if possible, you want to reflect things into the center of the screen. That way, Aghanim has less of a distance to warp to. Got a nice spin speed out of Caznode there on the pyramid. 1 try. Well, so all of that talk about winning the lottery, about, you know, placing first or second in the Hyrule, you know, Olympics when it comes to the Armos Knights, all the reward money comes to a turn finally with Kiki the monkey here, who is going to rob us blind just to enter this dungeon. He asked for 10 rupees just to follow us on Instagram, and then another 100 just to open the door. The rough thing that can happen to our runners, though, is if they take damage while Kiki's following them, Kiki will run away. So you have to pay another 10 rupees, and if you only have 110, you got to go farm some, which is kind of rough because these Ropas have, you know, a decent drop rate for rupees, but you still need good luck. Greenham and chat making a good point here. If you're ever wondering if you're watching NMG or Randomizer, the Ruby count is a really great way to look at it at a glance and know. Otherwise, though, I mean, you can see that we're going through advanced dungeons with Greenmail. That's probably a good indication as well. And we're not using any custom sprites, but definitely glad to clarify. I mean, it's the base game, so I mean, if you're into randomizers, this is definitely a run to learn and to try. Palace of Darkness is a fun place. This is where we get probably the most mileage out of our mirror in the entire run. It's a collectathon for keys early on, and then we get to see a really nice, really nice bomb jump coming up as well. Both of our runners should be attempting it. They're very fast to the game. So what we want to do is, Caznode getting the weird stair lag glitch where you constantly go up and down the stairs. If you bonk into the wall right before going up them, right before going up those stairs, it'll actually send him right back down. It's kind of weird. So we're coming up on the collapsing bridge. We're going to use the need to change our item to pause the game to line ourselves up better. If you do it right, you only need to pause buffer once, but by... actually, I think TheLostLlama might have been a little late on this. Nope, he got it. Very nice. So both of our runners took advantage of the fact that they need to switch items to put a bomb down and line themselves up. It's 2 pixel-perfect placements. TheLostLlama forgot the big key. That's a really rough loss of time. Because he got the bomb jump, but he doesn't really want to do it twice. He has 4 bombs, though, so he can do it. Just that's going to be really frustrating. Well, he's going to go and grab that big key. Caznode's going to make his way to Helmasaur King, though. So, has full health, you know, has more than enough arrows to get through the Mimic's room, definitely where he wants to be. Has a lot of bombs to work with as well. Not going to need all of them for this run. In this Mimic room, very careful optimization to get these Mimics in one cycle. Missed one of the arrows, unfortunately, but with Sword Beams, gets to catch up a little bit of that time back. All right, we get attempt number 2 on the bomb jump. Ooh, and a fairy drop. So I didn't mention this before when we were in Hyrule Castle, but there's a reason that we dash through certain enemies. It won't He throws the bomb anyway. Some habits die hard. On the bright side, he didn't need that bomb, so no harm, no foul. Probably scratching his head a little bit at that one, though. But yeah, so the fairy drop, it's part of a prize pack. So in this game, when you kill enemies, there's a certain chance, depending on which enemy you killed, that they'll drop an item for you. We call it a prize pack, the list of items that it can drop. One of those items for the blue guards in Hyrule Castle, the different type of armor, and mini Helmasaurs and Pokies as well, is a fairy. It's the second item in the list. If you find it on that bridge there from killing that Helmasaur, it means you're not going to get it later. And Caznode is hoping to find it in Turtle Rock, actually, because that's the next time we'll fight an enemy from that prize pack after this dungeon. Moving on to the Helmasaur King fight, though, Caznode's in it right now, has to watch out because he can easily die after a second hit. Alright, Spin Slash is going to pull it off, though. Helmasaur King's going to take 17 hits to the face with the hammer to destroy the shell. You can do it with 4 bombs instead if you'd like. After that, it's the equivalent of 8 sword slashes with the Master Sword to finish it off. You can do it with arrows as well. Or hammer if you are bold and want to get right up to his face, which Caznode did try. Well, we had a good recovery from Caznode, being very smart and patient. Patience in that fight is very difficult to have because Helmasaur King in the first phase can do any of 3 attacks. He can swing his tail at you, he can spit a fireball, or he can kind of bum rush you to give you a hug. Not the kind of hug you want. Definitely not going to wake up in the morning feeling good about that one. So in the Enrage phase, he can do all 3 attacks at once. So very happy to see that Caznode got through with no deaths. Let's see how TheLostLlama does here. Last note about this fight, that fireball attack, if the fireball lands on screen before you deliver the last hit of the shell and then you hit him, it'll actually despawn the fireball. So if you see it coming right before your 17th hit, go ahead and hit it, but wait for it to show up on screen first, and having left his mouth, then it'll despawn. TheLostLlama, though, getting through no problems, even taking a little bit of damage just to get a last couple hits in. Ooh, tried for a hammer dash on Caznode's screen. Ends up getting it in the second try, but that's one of those screens where, you know, you either gotta nail it perfect or you're gonna lose some time. Next up, we need to go pay a visit to Pinocchio, who actually has the keys to our flute. He's going to... Well, if you like to... I'm thinking of a good pun here. If you dig it, you're going to flip over to Light World and go pick up a flute and play some music. Gotta work on that one. Caznode wisely moving straight up, knowing that Link will dig to the right when you're doing that, and gets it in one dig. Excellently performed. Now, the flute is the key to moving fast in this world. We're not going to have to use it too much in this run because we're not picking up any safeties. So as we walk through... Well, actually, Caznode's going to do a nice spin speed. The reason why we want to do it here, though, is because Usain Bolt, the fastest guard in Hyrule, say hello and say goodbye. He's gone. We already won the Olympics. Get out of here. Another thing to notice is that we activate the flute on the left side of the statue. The reason why is because we're not going to flute immediately. We're going to head straight up to the left side of Kakariko and come back around for the portal. Now, this isn't exactly the developer-intended route to go through the game, but Nintendo had the good grace to give us a little bit of flexibility with how we approach the Dark World. This is available to us immediately after we do Palace of Darkness, and this is going to allow us to get the Titan's Mitts considerably faster than we should if we're following the intended progression. Yep, we're going to do Crystal 4 before we do Crystal 2 or 3. We'll do 3 after 4, and then we'll come back to 2 after we do 5. You'll notice the caznode pulls the Blind's Hut stat, or the door to Blind's Hut from the left side. This allows Link to roll back and hit the wall behind him. Basically just saves a couple frames from not having to roll as far. Thieves Town could be an annoying long dungeon, but we know exactly where we're going. We're going to make 3 rights, but it's not going to make a left. Kind of strange. In a roundabout way, I suppose it is, but it's really 3 rights make 1 right. With that, though, we're going to dive straight to the back. Caznode does not have a lot of health to work with, and there's only so many hearts to pick up. This is going to prove to be relevant later, as in a moment we're about to enter the Hellway, a conveyor belt room from Hell. There's exactly 1 coordinate that Link can stand on, a y-axis pixel here in the center of the room, and if you get it, you can dash through the entire room. We call it the God Pixel. Didn't pull it off there, no big deal though. With a couple stutter step dashes, gets through just fine, no damage. Our next destination is a hole in the floor. I think at this point, our runners probably prefer a hole in the wall. We're going to drop a bomb here, and this is going to, strangely enough, affect our boss, whose name is Blind. Ooh, caznode taking a hug from one of these green lizard monsters, whatever you want to call them, maybe grasshoppers, if you will. They do 2 hearts of damage to green male Link. This is a precarious position to be in. Can't afford to take a single hug from any of Blind's heads or Blind himself. Can only take 1 fireball before being in 1-hit KO mode. And plus there's the enemies in the basement to deal with. Caznode really has to be careful here. Now the Blind fight itself is what we like to call a scripted fight. Whole point of it is to do the exact same thing every time, and you'll have 100% predictable fight. If you mess up your inputs, you may end up getting a little bit off script, and that's where the fight starts getting more dangerous. Very possible to do the fight with no damage reliably, but if you die on the fight, Blind doesn't spawn in the same place, making it extremely difficult without sword beams. Well, we've got the mitts, we can now lift. Caznode doing very well through that conveyor belt room. Remains to be seen what this Blind fight's going to be like, though. I'm a little nervous. In the meantime, TheLostLlama not doing that much better either, with 3 hearts to work with. Both of these runners really cutting it close. Caznode will be able to pick 1 heart up right here, though, and skips it. He may have already picked it up earlier. I might have missed it. So here in the first phase, we're just going to hold down and slash. We're going to dodge some fireballs. Every 4th fireball will track Link's location. Pretty standard fight so far, doing everything right. And that's about as good as you can expect for that. Caznode with a almost perfect Blind fight. Only way that could have been faster is if 1, he had sword beams, or 2, he just swiped a little bit sooner on that last hit. Playing it safe, definitely worth doing. Ooh, and TheLostLlama's got to be extra careful. Down to 1 heart. This is an easy part of the hallway here to get... Ooh, runs into the red horse head guy. I don't actually know the name of that enemy. I think my co-commentator from the last match I commentated, Zelshaft, actually told me the real name. But so, that hug's really painful because he was trying to dodge the fire beam that he could have shot. The fireball being more than enough to kill him in that position. Now, the one nice thing is that we didn't end up, doing the Blind fight yet, so we still have the best positioning possible. That being said, though, we have to go all the way back to the basement, so the only thing we don't have to repeat here is going to be the upstairs section. We still have to hit that switch, but with 2 hearts remaining, this is going to be tight yet again. Kazno's going to pick up 300 rupees on the way to the blacksmith. We need these rupees and another 300 that we're going to find in the C-shaped house to pay off the worst extortionist in Hyrule, Zora King himself. You also notice that he swiped a couple of bushes next to the bombable hut to get a bomb drop, showing really good knowledge of the drops in this game. Now, if our runners were to pick up safeties, they would possibly consider the half magic at this point, but they didn't pick up powder, so that's irrelevant. We're just going to go get a red sword. Well, LostLlama seems to have made it through the maiden room just fine, absolutely no problems. Going to do a nice key dash to pick up the Titan's mitts. Even throws in a hammer dash in there for swag. Didn't save him any time, though. Throwing in hammer dashes left and right, ready to hit enemies that aren't even there. I'm not trying to roast you that hard, though, LostLlama. I'm just a little perplexed. Well, hey, if you folks are enjoying what you're seeing, I heartily encourage you to give them a follow. These runners are putting on a great show for us so far, as well as following all of the speed gaming channels, speed gaming 1 through 6 as well, to follow more races throughout this tournament. Also, I didn't mean to plug my link. I meant to hit the runner link. And LostLlama has a perfectly fine blind fight. 0 issues whatsoever, so glad to see neither of these runners died to the fight itself. It was a little more time costly to die before the blind fight, but it's also safer, so LostLlama probably hedging bets here, or we'll just say it's calculated. Next step, though, is for Caznode to head into Skull Woods, which I keep wanting to call Swamp Palace. Skull Woods here is a very fast dungeon. Blinking, you may end up missing it. Our first step is to head directly to the big key room, because this dungeon's like that. Interestingly enough, the room Caznode's in, this is one of the few rooms in the game where all of the enemies can spawn in completely random positions. Having no problems whatsoever, though, and not even taking damage to any of them, so that's a very successful big key room from Caznode. Next thing you're going to see him do is walk into the big key chest room and do a fancy schmancy bomb jump, just like the one in Tower of Hera. And boomski, we have Fire Rod. Takes a fall through that hole, exchanging 1 heart of damage for a slightly faster exit of the room. Could have done a menu to mirror or bonked off the wall to the north of him, but both of which are going to be a little slower, so we're opting for the fastest way through that room possible. Now, one thing that remains to be seen is whether or not the cost to the health is worth it. We've lost 4 hearts now, and Mothula is not exactly a slouch if anything goes wrong. Now, in this game, we have a strange habit of naming things Hellways. We're going to have a Gibdo one coming up next on Caznode's screen, while LostLlama is turning in the sword upgrade. Now, this room, we have to light all these torches and also not get wrecked by these Gibdos in a really sick item dash. That Fire Rod dash got him really close to the torch and allowed him to light it immediately, doing yet another one to get through the door. That's about as efficient as you can hope for in that situation. If there's a room to practice in Skull Woods, it's that. With that, Caznode's going to walk into this fight. I might not have time to explain it, so there's a conveyor on the floor. You want to poke dash into the block up there to do more damage to Mothula. And, yep, fight's already over. Basically, just this fight, though, is the faster you do it, the easier it becomes. There's spikes in the floor move randomly across the room, and Mothula is immune to damage from spikes. So if you knock Mothula into spikes, it overrides whatever damage you just did. A very frustrating feature of the boss. You want to keep him in the center of the room, or against those blocks. Caznode, with that dash, or with that poke dash, was able to dispatch with the Moth, just like that. Now, you might be thinking, hey, LostLlama is a whole dungeon behind. Well, I don't know. I mean, you can call it like a whole micro-dungeon behind. We'll be at the Mothula fight within the next couple minutes. It should be pretty quick. You'll notice that we want to try to push statues as much as possible instead of pulling them. It's a lot faster to push, and if you're going to push a statue, you should always be holding a diagonal direction, which actually does speed up the pushing animation. We'll pull sometimes, though, if we need to get a couple of inches of space. You know, when we're walking past the statue, those mummies are not fun. If you're a bit of a newer runner to the game, it might just be better to use the boomerang to stun them, or potentially just kill them outright with the fire rod. Or not the fire rod, you wouldn't have it by then, but with sword slashes. So you might be asking yourself, if you haven't played this game in a while, how in the world did caznode just get to the Dark World through the Hyrule Castle? That gate becomes a portal after we've killed Aghanim. So we're just going to take advantage of that and the mirror to take care of the Quake Medallion over at Catfish and the flippers at the exact same time. This game has been highly optimized, if you can't tell already. We're about to see another great example of that. Caznode here is going to pick up this rock and throw it into the Catfish Lake and bonk against the wall to the right. The reason why we do this is because it pans the camera to a certain position. If you're paying attention before about why we want to be on a certain Y pixel during warps, you'll notice that this warp is a little bit faster. It's a quick warp. If you bonk against that wall, it works every time. Ooh, and TheLostLlama gets nice item dashes as well. Very sick Gibdo Hellwaste from both of our runners. Well, caznode's doing the most expensive and the most boring part of the run. Let's see how TheLostLlama does with the Mothula fight. Got a favorable conveyor belt pattern. Getting some pretty free slashes in, and that's pretty much as good of a fight as you can hope for. Can it be faster? Yes. Does it need to be? Probably not. Well, that's great news for TheLostLlama. That fight can be extremely frustrating to go back through, and it's not exactly the most difficult one. It can just go really off the rails fast. But Yuta, how optimized is this run? I can hear nobody asking me right now. There's this portal here that's going to take us to our next dungeon. Very convenient. We're going to head to Ice Palace next. This is a very dangerous dungeon, particularly if you're the sword who is a madman and skips Sankheart for some reason. Here in this dungeon, we have a boss that can do 4 hearts of damage to us, so we're going to try our very best to not get hugged. As it turns out, Link is not a big fan of hugs. Now we get to see one of the nicest skips in the entire game here in the Ice Palace, because we hate the Ice Palace. It's the water temple of A Link to the Past. Now, Ice Palace, we only have to do like half of it, and honestly not even that much. We're going to take advantage of a fantastic bomb jump that will allow us to defeat the entire block puzzle with relative ease. There are crystal switches in this dungeon that block us from knocking a block further down a floor to hit a switch. We're going to bomb jump around some of these pegs to never have to do that, and that would normally require us to circle all the way around through the dungeon. Ooh, another fun thing you can see here with the Stalfos Knights and Caznode screen, if you knock one of them down, both of them are now vulnerable to bombs. If one of them stands back up, both of them are now immune to bombs. The state trigger for whether or not they can be destroyed with bombs is actually not unique to each one. If you do 1-to-1, it happens to the other. Excellent Ice Palace bomb jump from Caznode, even getting the hammer dash immediately after. There's like 3 different setups you can use for that bomb jump. It's kind of forgiving, but if you haven't learned them all, you know, it's kind of hard to get. There's a lot of disagreement about which one's the hardest in the game. Personally, I think it's hammer jump, or hammer yump, as we like to say, because you have a collapsing bridge. Caznode trying to take advantage of the hammer swings to manipulate the ice physics there. Not having a lot of luck, no problems though. Gets through just fine. Meanwhile, TheLostLlama is going to spend 5/6 of his rupees and pick up some flippers. keep in mind, folks, we already didn't pay for them earlier, so I guess this is like the late fee on a book. Apparently, we've been overdue for a while. Alrighty, folks. Hold on to your seats. Very tense fight here. We have 7 hearts left for caznode walking into Cold Stare. He can take 1 hug, cannot survive a second, and now he can only take 1 hug and can't get hit by ice. He's going to do a sword slash, poke, slash. He did a lot of things there, but gets the fight no problem. Relieved to see that. To die to Cold Stare is an extremely punishing death. You run out of magic just trying to destroy the shell, unless you have sword beams, which you can line up with the fire rod to do extra hits to the shell. So if you were to die, you have to use magic to get back into the dungeon. Very tough to get at that point. You can farm some enemies outside. You could fly to pick up, green potion if you have a bottle. But other than that, not a place where anyone wants to be in this tournament. Well, beyond a shadow of a doubt, both of our runners on a fantastic pace so far. I've seen 130 runners, pretty much just entering Swamp Palace at 58, 59 minutes. Both of our runners are probably well ahead of, a decent run. I mean, maybe TheLostLlama doesn't feel that great about his run right now, but it's still a great pace. We got chat asking about how you can play this game on the PC. Well, there's a lot of different ways you can play this game on PC. Typically, most people will use an emulator. Our runners, if they're going to be using such a thing, will be using the 1.0 Japanese version of the ROM. There's no way that I can really show you how to get that, although a Google search is definitely your friend. I recommend looking up Zelda no Densetsu. I don't know, there's a Japanese name that I'm just not that familiar, not that familiar with how to say. Ooh, TheLostLlama has only 1 bomb left. This is a tense moment. Ooh, trying to pause buffer to get it. I think he has the lineup, though. And pulls it off. Ooh, that was rough. He had fallen down the hole, so he had to be careful about that. But to continue that question, though, about playing this game online, you have to obviously have a ROM of the game. You can also... Thank you, Mashi. I appreciate you putting that in there. Kamigami no Triforce, which means Triforce of the Gods in Japanese. But so you would just play it on an emulator if you're going to run this game. I recommend you use SNES 9X. You could also use RetroArch with the BSNES Core or Heigan. But generally speaking, if you're getting into this game, probably best to just use SNES 9X. With that, though, TheLostLlama has made it to the basement, has 3 hearts left to work with. So, I mean, he can take 1 falling ice shot. That's it. Cannot get hugged at all, or else he's dead. This is a super tense moment here. Well, looking good so far. Gets the sword spin and... Ooh! And pulls it out! 1 heart, the madman. He switched a mirror after that spin, thinking that he would get an extra spin attack on it, and for whatever reason, they just didn't bounce favorably. And he was like... If it weren't for the ice hitting him, the iframes probably wouldn't have been enough to save him. Oh yeah, so Skulkin in chat, you're going to download the emulator program, but finding the ROM file for the game itself, like I can't link you to that, but just do a Google search for that name, and you'll find the file. Again, it's a legal implication here. I can't really like directly tell you how to get it. Well, so Lost Llama has done an excellent job of surviving that fight. That is easily one of the largest run killers that people, you know, really encounter at this level of gameplay. Jay Patterson, that's a relative claim to make. One thing you'll notice, folks, is when you play this game, every single day you play it, you will learn something new. I have not had a day playing or commentating this game where something completely brand new didn't come up on me. So, you know, stick with this game. There's a lot to learn. Jay Patterson making a great point. Yeah, if you've never played this game, just play it on the English version to try it. I mean, Japanese 1.0, the reason why we play in this is because the text is a little bit faster, saves about a minute over the course of the run. And we also have the Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitches, like item dashing and spin speed and super speed, all of which are not really relevant to your first playthrough of this game. Literally everything we do in this route, except for like 1 or 2 Ganon-related glitches, are completely accessible to you in the 1.2 international release of the game, also known as the American English version. NTSC, region locking, I don't know, Nintendo's weird. But yeah, nothing wrong with just doing a regular vanilla playthrough. I mean, you can always learn the speedrun right after. Asking about average speedrun times of this game varies intensely by the runner and how their run is going. A very fast time on average is about an hour 30, although you'll see runners in this community anywhere from 124, which is, well, 123, 124, to about 2 to 2.5 hours even. You know, there's no reason not to submit a time to the leaderboard. We'd love to see here. Ooh, Scrivo with the Sage Knowledge. We did not get 1.2 in US. It was actually 1.1, which is what most of us would have, in the United States, would have grown up with. Also, caznode here is fighting Argus. We're just going to hookshot all those puffballs. Now, the game doesn't expect us to have Tempered Sword at this point. You would normally have to do 2 slashes for each one. This boss becomes trivial with Tempered Sword. Swamp Palace is a nice little breather for our runners. This is the second crystal in the, I guess, intended progression. And because of the extra items and hearts that we have, it's just much, much easier to deal with than most of the harder dungeons that we're about to encounter. That being said, though, this is one of those places where, you know, it's kind of like getting cut by 1,000 little knives. You know, you'll eventually bleed out. You're going to lose a lot of time from little things in this dungeon, particularly taking damage, bad movement. You know, it's not something that you want to take for granted. This is a split to practice. Glitches aren't necessarily easier or harder to do on emulator. The only weakness of emulator is you tend to have a little more input lag. Well, considerably a larger amount compared to an analog controller on real hardware. So Scrivo and chat pointing out that spin speed is harder to do on a keyboard because you have to do it the very next frame after you do the spin slash. Not impossible, but definitely something that, you know, the timing's different. Jay Patterson, that's not entirely true. You could actually get a flash cart. It's an expensive route to go, but if you want to play a bunch of games, I mean, flash carts are a really reliable way to store your entire library. Ooh, Kazno getting the second perfect quick warp. That's a harder one to remember. Meanwhile, LostLlama getting an excellent assassination of that Stelphos with the hammer dash. That's a lot harder than it looks. Well, with the key in hand, LostLlama is ready to head to the back half. Does a little hammer or does a little bit of a hook dash there to activate the super speed state. He can't walk fast doing it, but doing so allows him to pick up the pot underneath that statue immediately. Kind of a weird quirk of super speed. Caznode opting to pick up the Ether Medallion, and then in that cave, the Ice Rod. He's going to do all of his shopping before the Blue Light Special ends. In the meantime, we'll make his way to Misery Mire to make the last crystal before Eternal Rock a thing. So here in Misery Mire, we have a ton of dangerous enemies, a ton of dangerous rooms. We got to watch our backs like butt cracks. But up ahead, we have an opportunity for the first meme moment of the run. That's right, it's the one, it's the only, it's the bird. Will it get tossed? Stay tuned, folks. We're about to find out. And Caznode, having no love for the memes, just wants to finish this as fast as possible, is going to make his way into the dungeon. Now, one thing you might notice is he has full health. This is a very calculated thing. You might not have noticed, but he gives us sword beams in this room, which allows us to kill a lot of things way faster. Doesn't get the one cycle, but is still going to try to get these Wizrobes in 2. Perfectly fine Mire 2. Probably wanted it a little faster, but that's a room you can lose a lot of time on. Caznode picks up the small key from that room. We're going to come back through there again once we've hit the crystal switch and picked up the Cane of Samaria. The routing through Misery Mire is pretty optimized as well. We want to have exactly enough keys to get to the big key and then make our way as fast as possible to get that rod and head downstairs. We're also going to pick up a key from this blue jelly here. Going to hit that switch because we need to come back through with the switch down. And we're going to get a nice little exploit of the sprite system, or I don't know how you'd call that, but the way that sprites work in this game. So blocks are not considered sprites that are like moving characters in the game, but when you push a block, it becomes a sprite for a moment, and it has no collision detection, so you can actually fire a fire rod through it, or a hook shot, or any other item that would work in that manner. And if you're in a cave, for example, doing it with a mirror would delete it completely. But in this situation, it allows us to bypass most of that block puzzle and get through the whole room a lot faster. LostLlama getting dead rocked, unfortunately, has to scroll the screen over to try to despawn one of them. Does successfully do so and moves the other one out of the way. Has the hook shot now, so we get a nice little hook dash. If you use a hook dash while you have your sword outstretched on a ladder, it'll actually climb even faster than spin speed when mashing the pumping. And then, of course, you release it for a nice spin speed at the end. Very nicely done. Great ascent for LostLlama. I think he might have even got quick warp. Nope, didn't get the quick warp. Caznode blazing through Misery Mire. We're going to hopefully take no more than 3 hearts of damage there. Had 1 before, so he's in good shape to do damage boost strats against Vidi. Vitreous being the boss of the dungeon. Ooh, with a really nice pot throw to kill that Wizrobe. That looked a lot sweeter than it probably is. Alright, we have an opportunity of redemption here on LostLlama's screen. He has not entered this with full health, so there's possibly a higher chance of the bird toss. Does this man love the memes, or does he love the speed? The bird slash! Oh no! The meme has officially been disgraced. Folks, LostLlama here, with no love for the bird, he will hang on to him until he's just inches away from where he wants to be and will end his life. The bird will not be tossed today, folks. The bird will be killed. Meanwhile, Caznode is going to be the first one into the Vitreous fight. This is a very interesting fight to see. So we're going to intentionally take damage in the poisonous goop in the corners here. in order to get close enough to do some really high damaging sword spins. Now, this is extra risky because if you walk into the eyeballs, it's going to do 4 hearts of damage, but caznode with some really sick sword spins gets 0 cycle Vitreous. Very impressive fight. So if you have 0 lightning attacks because you kill the eyeball so fast, that's what we call a 0 cycle. About as fast as that could have possibly been. Caznode's got to be feeling great right now. Walking past the torch room, you have roughly about 20 minutes or so left in your run if you're a good runner of this game. So TheLostLlama here, pretty much on a 130 pace. Caznode probably on a 127 or 128 pace at this point. This, of course, is assuming that nothing terrible goes wrong. Feel bad saying that. Commentator cursing coming. With that, though, folks, you know what time it is. It's time to go visit our friend Trinex. Caznode has already picked up his Ice Rod, already had the Ether, picked up Quake a while ago. Catfish was happy to get rid of us. Magus in chat pointing out the very interesting detail about medical terminology around eyeballs, because that is actually a thing in this game to consider. Vitreous would be something that would actually refer to the goop around the eyes, but that's a lore question to be solved by somebody who probably understands both Japanese and English, in my opinion. I do not. In the meantime, though, we're going to open up that Turtle Rock portal. There's a nice little tiny time save that we might see out of Caznode here. Ooh, watch the Dead Rocks. He gets Dead Rocked again. There's a tiny time save that he can do, though. When you activate the medallion, the Quake medallion on the Turtle Rock pedestal, I guess you can call it, you can do an item dash, which will activate that super speed state. Link usually won't get the actual super speed, like the faster walk animation, but you can get the instant hop from the ledge. We call it short hop. And if he pulls it off, he'll save maybe 5 to 20 frames, depending on if he hits short hop normally. Well, Turtle Rock it is. This is definitely a more dangerous dungeon than many, although our runners do have a pretty good sense of what they want to do here as far as damage taking and damage being healed. I believe both of our runners have already picked up a fairy drop, so Caznode probably won't find one in the room with the Pokey before the Chain Chomp room. In the meantime, though, TheLostLlama here with his Vitreous fight. Let's see if he can pull off a 0 cycle Vitreous as well. Doing pretty well with the first 2 sword spins. Got all of the left side, very nicely done. With some good arrows here, he's just barely outside of the 0 cycle, but still a very clean fight. He's going to pump 8 more arrows into Vitreous, switch to his mirror, and hopefully not use it, and finish things up. Here's that Pokey we were mentioning. No such fairy here, so got to be really careful. Can't take more than 1 hit from these Chain Chomps. Using the switch and invincibility frames to at least get close, and then the last hit will give him more iframes to get through. Caznode has to be very careful here. Everything in this dungeon will kill him. We're getting a little bit of lore discussion in chat here. I cannot confirm or deny those rumors, but I do like to read them. This is a very dangerous place for Caznode right now, and he gets sniped by the laser. Oh, that's brutal. I mean, he does open the door. He had the key, but he doesn't pick up the big key. Which is the entire reason he was on that side of that room in the first place. So that's a pretty hefty time loss for him. Lost Llama still has to pick up his Ice Rod, though, so he's not going to catch him quite yet. But another death like that, and Lost Llama's probably right back in this. Ooh, Lost Llama in a rough spot, does not have a bomb. He could pick one up from one of the rocks to the north of him. He may not realize that's a 50-50 bomb drop. Instead is going to try to find bombs and random drops. Will not find any from Octoroks, which are only going to drop rupees. This is a tough spot to be in. I mean, where else do you get a bomb? You can kind of tell that this is not something that usually happens to Lost Llama. Lost Llama, if you can hear me, there's a 50-50 bomb drop just outside of Ice Rod Cave, underneath one of the rocks. You can do it. Come on. Oh no. I mean, if you really had to, you could go to Kakariko Village and buy the bombs, but at this point... And there's also there's a bomb drop as well, 50-50 bomb rock in front of Link's house. Oh, this is rough to see. You could buy a bomb capacity upgrade, but that is also very slow as well. So whichever thing he decides to do is going to be something he's got to stick with. I am not entirely sure where he is going. Well, I don't see anything in the actual race channel about a forfeit, although, yeah, he did actually just do something that looks like a forfeitable offense. So, by the looks of things, Lost Llama has glitched out his game in protest. Yeah, I think Chad has it right. I think he may have given up on that. That's tough to see, though, because, I mean, Lost Llama definitely had a good run going. Just a really frustrating lack of bomb. We'll probably be looking up all the possible, bomb locations after this. In the meantime, though, he's going to search far and wide across Hyrule. He is going to cross the mountains about 150 times, hopefully finding a bomb somewhere. Godspeed, Lost Llama. Godspeed. In the meantime, though, caznode here is fighting Trinex with only 3 hearts left. Can't really afford to get hit by that head. Has no problem, though. And as long as he doesn't take any, direct hits, should have no issues finishing this up. Well, I want to extend the GG to Lost Llama. Doing this race, that stuff like that happens. It's tough to figure out where that bomb was. And everybody's going to have something like that in their runs, too. I mean, if you were missing arrows in Gan's Tower, if you're missing magic, after losing to Cold Stare or something like that, there are lots of places that you're just not going to find out unless, it happens in a run. Rough that it happened in this situation, but definitely appreciate, putting on the show for us, Lost Llama. GG on that one. Well, despite the forfeit here, caznode is on a fantastic pace for this run. We should probably see a sub 130 if we don't have any other deaths, and even with the death in Turtle Rock, still doing really well. Well, folks, definitely recommend you stay tuned for this Ganon's Tower. If you haven't seen the NMG run of Ganon's Tower, it is a sight to behold. It is an absolutely crazy dungeon. We do it very fast. Blink and you might miss the entire first half of it. So first thing that's going to come up is we're going to decide if we want to take the torch key. We're skipping in this situation, opting to pick up one in the Helmasaur room right before Moldorm 2. Next up, we're going to traverse this room very fast. And of course, we don't like wasting our menus, so we're going to switch back to the hookshot, which we need in this room. We're going to take advantage of that to kind of game the switch a bit. Lots of warp tiles here. We are not going to touch that randomizer room. It's called that for a reason. In the meantime, though, we're getting around this warp tile, going to the bottom left one. We get to see a nice little skip here. There's another warp tile that we would normally have to go through, but if we do a nice little dash bonk, slide right past it. Actually, Magus, that's an interesting thing to bring up. Bob doesn't actually exist in NMG. That's actually just a feature of the randomizer. Not exactly sure why that happened. It's some weird thing with the sprite. But they left it in because, you know, it became a meme. Ice Armos, this is a lot like the first fight, but we don't have the benefit of the top right setup. So what we're going to do is we're going to delay these Armos from getting in position as long as possible so we can get in a position to finish up the fast kill in the reverse order. We're going to take that key, grab a couple of extra arrows, and mirror right back out and head right back upstairs. Now, if you're feeling a little rough about your survivability in this dungeon and with Ganon, you could also go right upstairs from that fight. It would take about 20 seconds total to pick up the red mail. Caznode does not feel the need to grab it, so we'll skip it entirely. It's very common, though, for people who are, you know, 140 and up to pick it up. I mean, no reason not to. If your time save, you know, is significant everywhere else, probably better to just finish your run without a death. Caznode showing us the fast strats through the spike room. That's actually kind of hard to pull off, and RNG does have some impact on that. Klaus in chat asking about where silver arrows are actually located. It's the Pyramid Fairy. You can also get your gold sword upgraded from there as well. Happy to hear that, Wrath, and hey, maybe next time next tournament, it'll be you on the mic, you know? This is definitely my first experience with NMG, so I'm glad that the community will have me. Here in the Gauntlet, we have a lot of kill rooms and a lot of ice physics as well. Caznode using sword swings and the fire rod to position himself and take care of enemies from afar. Those rooms are very hard to optimize. We're going to take great advantage of the fire rod here as well to get some very fast kills. Even with a short hop, Caznode gets the one cycle. Very impressive kill. He's a little low in magic, so he may pick up a small pot here. And he's definitely going to skip the heart container. He's got pretty good health, though. With 7.5 hearts, you can definitely get through this, no problem. Canis Samaria is the best way on Earth to deal with these Wizrobes. That conveyor floor, you can just place it a little bit below it, and it'll actually slide up to the Wizrobe. So don't worry about placing that block right next to the Wizrobe. It's actually going to miss if you do that. We're a little low on magic here, though, so Caznode is going to do the lamp strats through this room, and then switch over to the fire rod in the last possible second. Plenty of time to get through the door. One thing you want to avoid, though, is you do not want to go up the stairs until that door closes. Or if you're really fast, you do it before it closes. But if you do it on the same frame going up those stairs as the door behind you closes, it'll actually despawn every sprite in the entire tower, making Aghanim unkillable. You have to mirror to restart it. It sucks. Next up, caznode is going to take on Moldorm, our final refight well, from the light world except for Aghanim. Okay, not the final refight, but the final of the Pendant Dungeon refights. Much easier this time around with the Tempered Sword. Now that we have all this equipment, if you didn't have Tempered Sword for some reason, doing low percent like Master Sword, you could use the hammer. Aghanim 2 is a very fun fight. Just like the first time, Aghanim himself has a 50-50 shot of shooting something at us we can reflect. The other two are always going to do energy balls, so caznode with a unbelievable triple, getting it from the backside, getting a very similar pattern this time, but only gets the one. So if we get a good pattern here, we can get a 3-cycle, which is a very good Aghanim fight. Excellently done by caznode. That's an expert 3-cycle. Well, caznode entering Ganon just after 126, so this is still potentially a 128. Also has 8 hearts, so you hug Ganon, you lose. So Ganon here is going to take 12 sword slashes. We position ourselves between the Trident and Ganon himself to get extra sword spins on him there. By doing that, we're able to get the first phase done in 1 cycle. In order to get a second phase done, we need to just get 12 more slashes in. You can sometimes do spin slashes if he's close enough to the wall. But very nicely done for a 1-in-1 out of caznode. Not an easy thing to do regularly. This is a fight that you have to practice a lot. Now, if you have gold, sword, and silvers, it's pretty trivial. You only have to do 6 and 6. But in the meantime, caznode having no troubles getting minimal warps. Actually, I think I only saw 2, which is really nice for phase 3. And gets the free spin. Now, he has to be careful about the fire bats. Now, he gets the torch glitch as well. The way that works is when the right torch goes out, it won't... when the left torch goes out, the right torch stays lit for a moment. If you relight the left one before the right one goes out, the right one will stay lit. This is really important for this fight because we don't have silver arrows to make this easier. So we're going to take advantage of the fire rod as well to get as close to Ganon while our sword is charged. We can get 3 sword spins in per cycle if we do this optimally. caznode doing really well so far. He only needs 12 sword spins to finish this up. Excellent Ganon, and he's going to just barely be over 128. What an incredible race. And with that, I don't believe Caznode's actually hit his dot done. Caznode, if you're out there listening, please hit dot done in the SRTV channel. Or maybe I'm watching the old one. Either way, a 128.06, very impressive time. I'm going to see if I can get either of them in for an interview, actually. Well, with that, caznode will rise to 3-0 in this group. LostLlama falling to 2-1. Both of our runners will be advancing to the elimination bracket. It'll be very exciting to see that. We don't have a separate bracket for glitch percent, but LostLlama would have made it for that if that was a category that we were running in this tournament. Nonetheless, we will advance in the NMG bracket, which is going to be starting actually at the beginning of next month. So we're going to have a little bit of time off, about a week or so, once we finish up the last of these matches. And that'll be a little bit of time for our runners to recharge, re-practice a little bit some of these fights that, you know, gave us some trouble in the first 3 rounds. I know I certainly would need to if I was going to be in the tournament, but I went 0-3, so wink, wink. We're going to be doing a lot of commentary. All right, looks like we're going to get caznode in for an interview. Lost Llama, that does extend to you as well. If you'd like one, just let me know. I'll send you the link. I should have brought you in here before, but I forgot. Welcome, caznode and GG.
Hello, hello. Thank you.
Oh, also, just want to let the chat know. It looks like Lost Llama won't be able to join us for an interview, but nice race.
Yo, that was the game had me on tilt a little bit, but I pulled out the gold Ganon's Tower, so it was worth it.
I mean, both of you guys left and right were doing the most amazing strats. I was floored to see the way that both of you handled the Mummy Hellway.
Oh yeah, that's a fun one. Doing the rod dashes and all.
Yeah, you pulled off both of them. I was just like, is this man going to stop ever?
Well, the chancel stopped me.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see a God Pixel, but I mean, just about every other major thing in this run. I mean, you were on fire all seed, or not all seed. I'm commentating rando. You've been on fire all run, you know, for all of the important tricks, all of the difficult things to do. Didn't have any issues with the bomb jump. Took a couple pause buffers, but you got through it.
Yeah, that one went well. Hera bomb jump went well, but then I went ahead and missed the bumper skip, so that was cool.
Couldn't pull off the bumper skip. Yeah. Or no, you did pull off the bumper skip, not the bumper skip.
And then, where was it? The Kadango? I have never seen it like just shoot fire in that same place 3 times before. That was aggravating.
Yeah, it just goes to show just how much NMG has RNG in its name. A frustrating experience, I imagine.
Yeah, and the mini Moldorms throughout the run, they're always keeping you on edge. Those guys are the worst.
That being said, though, I think you only had 1 death in the run. That was right before the big key in Turtle Rock, right?
Yep. I saw that the Pokey dropped the fairy, but I just went for the Dort key dash, and I did get the key dash, but the laser hit me, and that was that.
Well, so I have to think though that would have put you really close to your PB.
I was going to be about a minute behind, probably, no matter what. But
that actually raises a different question. Have you PB'd since your last update on the speedrun.com leaderboard?
I had like a 10-second PB that I restreamed but never bothered submitting. I was hoping to wait until I got a 125 to update that time, but it hasn't happened yet, so wait and see.
Got to get that whole minute skip. I know how you feel.
Of course.
Well, so it's really exciting, though, to see that both of you guys will be running in the elimination bracket. This brings you up to 3-0, Lost Llama 2-1. With the time off that you have between this and the brackets, which should be starting in the beginning of next month, how do you plan on spending that time? Are you going to be doing a lot of grinding on this run?
Well, so my SD2 SNES just broke, so...
Oh, no.
So that probably means lots of runs and not much practice, but hopefully I can fix it. We'll see. If anybody in chat knows what to do when it just says no SD card found, no matter what, even different SD cards, I took it apart and looked for any obvious mechanical difficulties, and... I don't know what the problem is, so if anybody is up for some tech support, I'm open.
Yeah, I mean, I get something like that with the Super EverDrive, but that's just because it's kind of a piece of junk. But, you know, it works, so that's what matters. I got a feel for you. I mean, that's a hefty investment, too.
Yeah, but I think you can also, there's some patches out there so that you can just go straight from the computer to the SD2 SNES via USB, so... Worst case, we can go for that.
There's some interesting stuff with that. Well, other than that, though, caznode, do you have any other thoughts about this run you'd like to share with the audience?
This game sucks. Thanks for watching.
Well, with that, I think that'll probably do it for us here then. I do want to take a quick moment to shout out everybody who involved with making this happen. Feasel and the Speed Gaming networks of channels, appreciate all the hard work. And that note, everybody please follow Speed Gaming 1 through 6, as well as, of course, if you're into the randomizers, ALTTP randomizer 1 through 4. But most importantly, follow these runners. They put on a fantastic show for you today. This is just the start of their tournament run. Both of them, are, from what I can tell, are going to have a deep run.